Hello lovers, how the hell are we doing? Happy first episode of Big Sister Energy. Oh my God, I'm nervous, let me tell you. Now let's just start off by saying, look, reality TV is not for the weak. It is not for the weak. You don't know how you're going to be perceived. You don't know what people are going to think of you. You know that, all facets of your personality are going to be shown, the good, the bad, the ugly. And that's a scary thing. It's not scripted. All of the emotions and feelings that you feel are real, and you have to be okay with that. You have to be able to back yourself. You've got to be good with you, even if other people might not be. And even for a strong, confident woman like me, it's a lot. And yeah, I'm a bit nervous recording this podcast because, again, it's putting yourself out there, putting my thoughts and feelings out there, hoping that it resonates. But we'll come to this later. Just because I'm nervous doesn't mean I'm not confident in what I'm saying or confident that this will land and hopefully help the right people. We'll get to it a little bit later on, but feeling nervous just means that you care. And I would rather feel nervous and do this than not do it. So cheers to that. I'd say the thing that I've had most on DMs is just like, you come across so raw and unfiltered and honest and just like putting your whole personality out there to be perceived. And it's been so lovely having those messages from you. And honestly, I feel like it's obviously been inspiring to see that. And we'll get to this a bit later on as well. I think particularly as women, it's maybe not so often that we see other women being raw and confident on telly and in the media. And so honestly, every message that I've had where you might feel like, oh God, you were so real and authentic, like it's so amazing to hear. Honestly, it's been emotional, to be honest with you. However, if I hadn't been perceived well, if people didn't have very nice things to say about me, would I feel any differently about myself? Look, I'm human. I would definitely have had a wobble. Like my therapist would have had messages. Do you know what I mean? Like she's had a few messages already. But would it change how I feel about myself? Honestly, no. Not 100% no. Because I think it would obviously make you question yourself. It would make you have some things to say to your therapist 100%. But it's taken me 35, nearly 36 years to get comfy with who I am and to trust how I feel and trust to say how I feel out loud, regardless of who it pleases. It's also taken me some time to know how to say my truth and how not to come across in like a negative or horrible way. And, we don't always get things right, but I have landed in this place now where it's like, this is me. This is who I am. Like, I can't help it. I can't change who I am. We can certainly work on trying to be like a better version of ourselves, but I will not go through this life without being who I am. And I don't think that you should either. So I hope that this episode is going to help you feel confident, lean into your authenticity, and feel a sense of peace in who you are. If this is a little bit choppy, this podcast, you're going to have to bear with me because I decided apparently to start a podcast in my flat where I live under a flight path. So there's planes going over all the time. I hope they're going somewhere nice, to be honest with you. Now, obviously, I've really deeped this whole confidence. Why am I so confident? How do I feel so confident? How am I so able to speak my truth? And it ain't just because I'm a gobby cow, because believe me, I have not always been this way. I grew up with two parents who loved me so much. However, the way that they parented me meant that I became a real people pleaser. When I acted a certain way with my mum, she showered me with love and attention. And when I acted a certain way with my dad, it showered me with love and affection. And when you learn that as a child from 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, God, that stuff don't stick with you. And so it's taken me a long time to really find my own voice in my head, know what I want, know who I am. And believe me, when you learn that, you can't turn away from it. You then have to lean into that truth. But particularly since the show coming out and getting these messages about, God, you're so raw and unfiltered, that kind of thing, I've really deeped it to think, okay, how have I got this inner confidence? Where does it come from? What things have I put together to make me feel like I can just be myself regardless of how anybody takes me? And I think it's 3 things: confidence, self-love, and authenticity. I think you need 3 things because, right, confidence without self-love So you could be a confident person, but you don't really have that self-love. It just is bravado. You're just pretending, right? And pretending is a great place to start with confidence, but ultimately we don't want to be pretending. We want to be really feeling it. If you have authenticity without confidence, then you've got the problem of people being able to walk all over you. Even if you say what you think, if you don't have the confidence to back it, then you can let go of your boundaries. And when you have lack of boundaries, that doesn't lead to self-love at all, and you really need that to feel confident. Then if you've got the self-love part without the authenticity, well then is it even real? Because you can I can do my journal, I can light my candles, but if you're not really living authentically as you, the self-love part really can't come into play, because, well, who are you loving if you're not being authentic, So this is how I kind of break it down. Confidence is how you carry it. Authenticity is what you carry, and then self-love is what you refuse to carry. Now, I think majority of the time we don't feel confident, or we don't, lean into our authenticity because we're worried about how others will perceive us, what other people will think. And the thing is, just because someone else wouldn't do what you're doing, or say something how you would say it, or act how you act, doesn't make you wrong. It just means that they're not for you. People are always going to have their opinions, do you know what I mean? But that's just theirs. It's actually none of your business what anyone thinks of what you do and how you do it. It's what you think of yourself. It's the self-respect that you have and what you hold, which is going to see you throughout your whole life. Because at the end of the day, you've got to remember, even though someone might have a thought about you, it's most oftentimes fleeting. We think about ourselves far more than anybody else thinks about us. And I don't care if you're in the most loving relationship in the world. That's in our nature. It's a very selfish, innate human thing, but no one else is thinking about you more than you're thinking about yourself. And that's who you've got to live with forever. It's you. And of course, we're human. We are gonna be, sometimes concerned about what other people think of us. But it's more the feeling that I think we're worried about. The thought of someone else not being okay with something that you do or say, it can be discomfort. It can cause discomfort and it can cause anxiety. But the thing is, if someone does feel negatively about you or something you've said or done, that can be, a really uncomfortable thing to sit with. It can cause a lot of anxiety. But the reason that it causes those feelings is because you care. And that is such a normal thing. For example, putting yourself out there for a new job role, going up to someone that you fancy in a bar or a club, or setting a boundary with a parent. Of course that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, but it's not the action that makes it uncomfortable. It's how you might feel if you might get rejected in any way or thought negatively of in any way. It's because you care, and that is only a good thing. But we don't want the fact that we care about that to stop us from doing things and being who we really are. And ultimately going for shit in life. Because we've only got one, it's so short. But these things only make us feel anxious because we care. We want to feel proud of ourselves. We want to feel valued in a conversation. We want people to like us. Anxiety just really means this matters. Feeling those feelings just means that you care and it's important to you, and that's okay. But it's when we avoid that discomfort, it's when we avoid the anxiety, it only is going to lead to long-term resentment, because you're never going to get what you want by staying small. We've all done it, not spoken out in a certain situation, made ourselves smaller to make everybody else feel comfortable. But ultimately you end up paying for that with your self-respect. It always comes back to, how do you feel about who you are? Now, I really want to give you some actionable examples here. So, example for setting a boundary. You could say something like, I really care about this and I want to be clear. I need X. If that doesn't work, then I'm going to choose Y. That's not mean, it's not confrontational, it's clear, it's concise. A simple sentence like that is the perfect way to start setting a boundary. Another example, if you need, clarity in maybe a relationship or a situationship, you could say something like, I'm looking for something committed. If you're unsure, that's okay. But I won't live in unsure. What was that? Not even 2 sentences. And that then gives the person a place of, clarity, and hopefully in return, you get that honesty that you're looking for. You didn't need to send a whole paragraph, I want this, that, and the other. And listen, Sometimes it's not that easy. I know, I'm still learning by my own advice too. We're just human. But practice makes perfect, and we're gonna keep practicing together. We might need to be a little bit more confident and sure of ourselves at work. For example, you could say, to do my best work, I need X by this date. If that doesn't work, can we adjust the scope? You know, clear, concise, to the point, I need this. Can you meet me halfway or not? Friendships are often where we feel a lot of that kind of push and pull with whether to be kind of brutally honest or not say anything at all. My friendships, my closest friendships that have spanned, 10 plus years, have always come when you're just honest with each other and when you can really have that open, honest communication and comprehension with one another. You might be able to say something to each other, but whether the person you're speaking to can really comprehend where you're coming from oftentimes makes a difference. And that's where really being concise helps. Say that something hasn't gone quite right in a friendship, you feel a way about something, you could say, I love you. I felt X when X happened. Next time, can we do this instead? It sounds so simple. And a lot of the times, to make, your life better, to move in a direction that you want to move in, it is the bloody simple things, isn't it? It's like people saying to you, if you want to feel healthier, drink some water, go and have a little walk outside. It's often those really simple things that make a difference. But isn't that a wonderful thing? Knowing that to be your more confident, authentic self, there really are just simple ways that you can do it. We love to hear that. And look, me saying this to you, to the camera, it's not having a real life conversation. It's not having that real life, I want to say something, but I'm feeling this anxiety. Can I say it? Obviously, this isn't real. And so that anxiety and that uncomfortability is going to be in you. It just is, it's natural. And look, when you're saying this to somebody, your voice might shake. And so what if it does? Okay, being uncomfortable is gonna have a reaction in your body. It is gonna cause something like that. You might have a little tremor, or your voice might have a little wobble in it. But when you say your truth and your voice has a little shake in it, it doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means this is new. And look, I have a natural tremor anyway, my whole family do. But when I get anxious, my whole body really trembles. And it's just something that I have to live with, because for so long, I didn't always say and do what I really felt. And so it takes so much of my nervous system to fucking chill out for me to just be who I am. My body does have quite a strong reaction sometimes to, speaking my truth. And ultimately, I've had to learn to live with it. I would rather have a body tremble and say what I really think and feel than not, and just live inside my own head and not have that self-respect of being who I really am. And look, if your voice shakes or you have a little tremble, if somebody takes delight in that, if they use that against you, they are not your person. Shake, have a little tremble, say it anyway. Now, the main thing I want to get across to you today, the most important thing to me, and something that I really, really believe in, is that speaking your truth does not make you mean. Especially as women, we've got so much unlearning to do with being direct, being confident. We've all been told things like, oh, you're too loud, oh, you're too much, oh, if you could just do it this way instead of that way. Even being told things like, oh, you're too nice. Like, we've got so much unlearning to do with that. So when you do finally step into being a more confident, proud person, it is going to feel uncomfy. But I've said it once and I'll say it again. Just because you feel anxiety around something doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's new. And look, I'll own this, especially when I first started to do this kind of work on my self-confidence. I think, you can swing too far the other way sometimes and be like, I will not be silenced. I will speak my truth and I'm going to say it. Especially if you're a Sagittarius like me too. We are a bit fiery. But there is a way to say things in a direct way without, coming across angry or mean. It's about being firm, direct, with that kindness behind it. And we're not always going to get it right. Practice makes perfect. On different days we feel different things, and in different situations our emotions are running away with us. But if you can lead with the idea of being kind, firm and direct all at once, more often than not, that's a good step in the right direction. Right, one of my favorite things that I like to do is something called balance. It's an acronym, okay? And it helps to regulate yourself so that you can come across clear, but kindly, but staying firm. Because we're gonna be in this state of like discomfort, whatever that might be, when you're really trying to be yourself and putting yourself out there, you have to learn to regulate yourself. It's so important, because otherwise you're going to be in this state of, heightened anxiety, your heart rate's beating faster, you can't think, your body's having a reaction, and then you can't be yourself. You can't be clear and direct and kind at the same time, because you're just fucking flailing. So we're going to work on this thing called balance. I don't know if you call it an acronym. Is it an acronym? I don't know. You tell me in the comments anyway. But we start with B, and that's breathe. And it sounds really simple, and oftentimes the things that we want to do often have simple steps to get there, but the first thing is to breathe. You're feeling uncomfortable, whatever you're feeling, breathe through it. In for 4, hold for 4 and out for 4. It really is the simplest way to start. A is then acknowledge. Acknowledge that I'm feeling a certain way about this, and the reason that I'm feeling this way is because it matters to me, and that's okay. The L stands for label. So label what it is you're feeling, because it makes it more real and takes away from that like anxiety of it all. Are you feeling nervous? Are you feeling disappointed? Label that feeling so that you have a name for it, at least in your head, and it's not just this like feeling of emotion that's a horrible thing. Label it so you can be clear about what you're feeling. A is for anchor. You gotta anchor yourself. Roll the shoulders back, loosen your jaw a little bit. Use that breath and just anchor yourself so that you can ready yourself and be in your body to say what you need to say. N is for noticing your pace. Leave a pause. Silence is a good thing. You don't have to fill the silent space with loads of words, because it's never going to be what you really think or feel. And oftentimes when we do feel silence, it's to appease the other person and how they feel, and we're not doing that anymore. The C is for choose. And that is one clear, concise sentence. Like I said, you don't need to fill the air with loads of words and loads of mumbo jumbo. Be concise, be clear. Oftentimes, what we're thinking and what we want to say can just be one sentence. We're just taught to go on and over explain to please somebody else. So coming up with your clear, concise sentence, how can that be misconstrued? How can that be thought of in any other way than how you've said it and what you said? Then the E is for exit. It's setting a boundary, knowing your next step. So not just going in, full steam ahead. I'm going to say this and what are you going to do about it? Using balance, using all of those steps to have a good back and forth, to genuinely be able to honestly, openly communicate. Most importantly, comprehension. You can communicate, but can you really comprehend what somebody's saying and how they're saying it, and what does that really mean? You can say words to each other, but if you can't comprehend how somebody feels, then it all goes out the window. But using that balance when you are feeling anxious in your body and when you are wanting to do something which is your truth, such a great way to help you. And when you use that balance, you are understood easier, you come across more clearly, you automatically come across more confident, because you are in control of yourself. And that control is for you, so that you can feel good, you can feel like you can say what you want to say and act how you want to act. It's not to change someone else's perception of you. Having that self-control leads to self-respect. Trusting who you are, trusting that you have got yourself in this situation. I know how I'm going to act. I know that I can say my truth without, fumbling or backing off. That balance really helps to build that self-trust, which ultimately leads to much better confidence. Now, I guess the last thing to say is that confidence isn't just going to be stumbled upon. You're not just going to find confidence by accident, It's about repetition, and particularly small changes. It's never going to be those big, grand gestures of confidence that are really going to change you long term. It's making those small adjustments Example, taking yourself out on a solo date. It's only got to be 45 minutes to the coffee shop, but do it, notice what you're thinking, notice what you're feeling. Oh, is that person looking at me? Oh, do people think I'm weird for being here alone? Getting through that and sitting in that uncomfortability, slowly, you won't feel like that anymore because you realise once you've done it, well, I survived that. Nothing bad happened. Nothing horrible happened. And that starts building that trust in yourself that we all once built that confidence. We'll wait for the plane to go over. I hope you have a horrible holiday. No, I don't. Another great way to kind of make those small changes is saying the tiny no's. In this age where we're like so available all of the time, that person wants to see you, you've got to catch up with that old friend or that boss, you need to get back to that email, oh, you need to drop that off. Saying the tiny no's. I can't this week. I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. That is perfectly fine. We're in this age where we feel like we've got to over-explain and kind of over-pander and, oh no, sorry, I'm not sure if I can. No. Say the small no's. It doesn't have to be, it's not horrible. It's not horrible to say no. It's perfectly fine to set your boundary and not do something you don't want to do. And what I want you to do with that is document these small repetitions of building that confidence. Write them in a notebook, okay? You ain't got a journal. I'm not going to be that girl that tells you to sit and journal if you don't want to. Do it if it helps you. But certainly make a note of those small changes that you're making so you can look back over them and celebrate those things. Because every time you say no, every time you set a boundary, every time you speak your truth, it is such a win for yourself. Every time you move forward in that right direction towards being confident or direct or speaking your truth, it's like keeping promises to yourself. And when you keep promises to yourself, your brain learns, I am the sort of person that has my own back. And then you are confident. If any of this hit home with you, please do share it with a friend. I can't believe you've made it to the end of the first episode of Big Sister Energy. Who do I think I am? The lesbian Oprah or something? Oh, dearie me. I'll have an episode for you every single week. Starting next week, I'm going to be answering a piece of advice that you need. Obviously, it's episode 1. I don't have any DMs about anything yet. So if you need advice on anything, please slide into my DMs. You will remain anonymous. But I want this podcast to give you advice on things that you need, not what I think you need. And if you're feeling generous, a 5-star review of the podcast would just help me land in more ears. It costs you nothing, but could change everything. And I will see you in next week's episode of Big Sister Energy, advice without the apology. Back yourself this week. And I'll see you on the Red Lip sofa next Wednesday. Love you.